own now.
All right, it's February 7th, 2023. It's 6:02 p.m. and this is a special meeting or extra meeting of the Sewer Commission to talk about the budget workshop. And Barbara, do you have a flag hanging around there?
No.
Didn't we have this last week?
Yeah.
I got one.
Bill came up.
Okay.
Yeah,
There you go. Bill's got it.
Because
Okay.
Bill had one last week.
All right, I'm John Reynolds of the Sewer Commission, and I'd like to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll start off with it. I pledge allegiance to the
The
flag
flag,
of the United
United
States of
States of
America
America,
and to the republic
Republic,
For which it stands,
and
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
For all.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bill. And I have to read the standard 3 paragraphs here. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting laws, please be advised that this meeting of the Sewer Commission is being recorded and will be able to be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link to join the public meeting webinar found on the posted agenda, or from a telephone, dial the toll-free meeting webinar, toll-free number 888-475-4499. Again, that's 888-475-4499, and enter the webinar number 792-737-0353. Again, 792-737-0352. If you have not registered with Zoom, you'll be asked for your name and an email address. No participant ID is needed. Just press pound when asked. We're going to do a roll call vote now. Confirm that all members are here and are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Brett Ramsden.
Here.
See, Dave McDonald is not with us tonight. Mike Naltz.
Present.
Mike DeVakis, I don't think is here.
He responded that he's not able to join.
Okay, and I for myself. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bill Bernard,
Here.
Barb Lefebvre,
Here.
Paula Bertram,
Here.
Jane Rainley.
Here.
Great, thank you. Okay, public comment. Let's see, we don't have any public.
I see Brett Ramsden's on the line over here.
Well, as a sewer commission, you can make a comment during the public comment also. You have any? No, I have a real brief one. I put a deduct / irrigation meter in this week, and it was painful. And I think we need to, for some reason, we require that the plumbing permit be submitted to the sewer department when the sign off of the plumbing inspector is submitted, which really doesn't make any sense. The plumbing inspector wouldn't sign off if he didn't have a plumbing permit issued. I believe that's how he gets paid. So we can't really go into it tonight, but as a member of the public who had a meter put in, I think the sewer commission should look at that at some future meeting. Probably soon, like maybe the next meeting, Barbara, so that maybe we can get
Spring is coming.
get a change with all the other changes in our regs.
It'll be on the next one.
Okay, any public comment from anyone else? Seeing none, I guess we can move on to current business, which is the budget. And everyone has a copy, right?
I will share the screen if it's okay with you.
That would be great.
Hey, look, I can see this one.
I can hear it too.
All right, I mean, I think in the past, we just basically have gone through this one line item at a time.
Makes
And
sense.
Barbara, I mean, do you want to sort of, or Paula, sort of go through, and if any of us have any questions, input, or concerns, we can bring them up as we go along?
Certainly, I'm happy to do this.
Okay.
I have an initial question.
Sure.
What are our primary goals this evening on the budget?
Well, we need to go through and look at each line item
Mhm.
to determine whether we agree with what we're seeing. And ideally, we'd come up with a balanced budget. But tonight we might have to just, really, we're looking at the operations budget right now. And we might have to decide at some point, not tonight, whether we have to have a rate increase, how much we might have to borrow from retained earnings to have a balanced budget. But it's really to look at the individual line items and see if we, the commissioners, think in line with where they need to be. Does that answer your question, Brett?
It sure does. Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, Barb.
All right. It's easier for me to go down. Unfortunately, my screen is not big enough to do it all. Actually, let me shrink that. To go through the lines. Here, you know what I'll do? Sorry. To get this process down. User charges. Everything is described in the yellow boxes that you all have on this copy that I've sent out. It's $1 million. Nope, sorry, nope. It's 1.2 million. Get over to where I need to be. Based on what we have currently as far as customers and what we project forward based on growth. So the formulas and the thoughts are all in that description, and it goes line by line. So the first box is current customers, and I should probably put it down so people know what I'm talking about. And this is when it does, you have to scroll all the way to the left to see the full comment. So it's just a little dicey trying to do both. So tell me if you'd rather focus on comments or focus on the amounts.
Why don't we focus on the amounts, and if there's a question,
Okay. All right.
because we all have the comments in front of us, so
Okay.
why don't we focus on the amounts?
Okay.
Unless, I mean, if
So somebody has a question.
Mike and Brett, you have a different thought, that's fine.
No, amounts are good because we get the
Okay.
comparisons from year to
Yeah.
year.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So I'll run through them and we can go back to anyone's you have questions on if that's all right. So we've got 1.2 million for the user charges. I've left rate increase at a 0 right now. As you can see, I made some of the fonts in purple, and those are topics to be discussed. So we have a 0 for rate increase at this point. The ones that are in that coral kind of color, salmon, are in and out. They are revenues we are hoping to get in, and then you will see below that those are for direct expenses to go right back out. So that's my little color coding for the evening. So rate increase at this point, at the very start, is 0, because I'm sure that's what most of our residents would appreciate. The deduct meter fee at 2,800, that is what we have for current customers and what we expect to gain.
So Barbara, is that based on $50
Yes.
a year?
Yes.
We have that many deductors?
We have 54, not including the recent one on Lancaster Ave. So it was 54.
Okay,
All right, and then we've added 2 for growth. We might, again, you know, revenues are a guesstimate at its best. But if we end up with more, then that is always good. In this instance, we don't necessarily have more expense to deal with it, but we have more admin to deal with it.
right.
So, all right. The next one is connection fees. Again, I provided the formula behind it. And that's just what we're assuming, as we did last year, one new Fitchburg and 5 new Leominster. And that's along with assuming we've got some more coming on this year. I think up at the top, it's 927 customers currently. And for the purpose of the budget, we're assuming that we will have 13 new connects for the remainder of FY23 and 7 recent not yet reflected. So this has everything it deals with. We're not quite done with FY23 yet. But this connection fee is what we are assuming for FY24. So I should just look for that. So that's assuming 1 Fitchburg and 5 Leominster. Sewer bank fee is based on something we charge for the I&I that was required of us, and I based it on a 4-bedroom home times those 6 new connections. Penalty and fees, just current base, level funded, what we've gathered already and what we're just leaving there, because that's just unpredictable also. Drain layer fees at 600. That's just assuming you will have 6 drain layers signing on, and that is what we've done the last couple of years. So it is $100 license fee per year. Grease trap permit fees. This is something that I did put in purple because we had discussed previously that we would not charge our compliant customers any fees to be in the program, and we would only charge permit fees to the non-compliant. But as Paula can attest, even compliant customers take a lot of administration, both in gathering and recording their logs, prompting them to remain compliant, processing any questions, complaints. So my proposal, and I think you saw it on the most recent policy changes, is that we would do 50 for the internal trap customers that are compliant and 100 for for external interceptor customers. So
Yes,
this,
that was on the procedures, the regs that we just all agreed to move forward with.
so I've put that in there, assuming that policy will go through as planned. So that's the number of customers and based on current status of who's compliant and who is non-compliant, what we would assume for FY24, we would want to charge for annual permit fees. The grease trap permit fees, the non-compliant fees that we charge to customers that go outside of compliance is not something we're allowed to budget. That's like budgeting fines, which we're just not. It's unpredictable. There's no budgeting for it. We haven't been able to for several years. So
Right.
investment income, approximately at the same rate as prior year, because that's another one we don't know. I think we did bump it up to 6,000 based on current projections. It's at 3,443 right now at 50% through the year. So didn't want to go full other 50%, but I met at 6,000. The reserve fund for Highfield capacity and the reserve capacity fees are not something we're able to budget. The Highfield, there's no more revenue coming from Highfield, so that's just carried because it was revenue in recent years. And the reserve capacity fees, again, we are unable to budget for that because it is it's an item we collect for future expense. And that's why we do the stabilization fund transfers. So we're not going to budget it for current use. We don't use it in the current year. And if we know we have to, we would do a stabilization fund transfer. Then we do get down.
I have a question, Barbara.
Sure.
At this point. The reserve capacity fees. So I just want to understand how that works. If they show up by the end of the year, we use that money, but if not, we hit reserve capacity. Is that correct?
We transfer it. We collect it if someone has, this is a fee we collect if it's a brand new account that we did not prepare for or predict when we signed on to the IMAs with Fitchburg and Leominster. So it's based on if someone is assessed a privilege fee because it's an expansion of use or increased use, this reserve capacity fee kicks in. And it's just to put aside for example, the John Fitch Highway, they needed to increase their pipes and they charged us a portion of it based on our percentage of flow and their percentage of project. So we're trying to accumulate funds so that should Leominster or Fitchburg come back again with another project that they need to increase capacity, that we have something put aside for it. So
Great. Thank you for that.
okay. So the first one, the reserve capacity fund transfer, is the $20,962.40. You'll see that down below in and out, because that is the amount that we will owe Fitchburg for this year for the portion of the John Fitch Highway. And right now we have the monies to transfer because of that Highfield payment. This is the last year we'll have the full amount to be able to transfer. There'll be basically 7,000 left from Highfield there for use, and then otherwise we will have to pull from our fund. So this is the last year we've got it fully funded outside. I mean, we're trying to fund ongoing. That's a new addition you'll see down below that we did, I think last year, discuss putting extra into the reserve capacity fund so that we would accumulate more cash. We don't, Highfield villages don't come along often just to give us some money, so we will need to accrue for it. All right. Sewer bank is 9,900. This was monies collected last year, not spent. So it was put into stabilization, and we are required by the state and by Leominster IMA to spend money on I&I every year. We did spend it in FY23, but it was an encumbered fund. So, we still invested in I&I remediation, but we do need to do it again for FY24. So there is another offsetting entry further down for that 9,900. I think I put it in as 10,000 to be spent. And then the capital reserve fund transfer again is a in and out as it goes. We have that funds our unplanned expenses. We put it in there as an emergency fund so that if we have something unplanned, we have cash on hand to use for that eventuality. We've got these 3 ARPA funding requests here under revenue. And again, although these should be also not only just purple, but in salmon, because further down we do have these entries in purchase of service for, I think for purchase, oh, yeah, purchase of service. I think, yeah, sorry. Flitting around. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's down in capital. You can see this line 5B, 5C, 5D, ARPA funded. So this is under our entry for capital expenditures. That if we were to get ARPA funding, and this will be, this is initial, this is preliminary. We will also talk with the town manager and town accountant on this and the likelihood, if it's okay with the town manager, for us to leave these in here as a wash. We're not overspending, we're assuming we'll get it and then expend it. So anyway, Paula's got her hand up.
So I don't have a question particularly about the ARPA funding, but I do have a question about the 96,000 in unplanned planned capital expenditures, and I'm wondering what that targets.
Okay, down below.
Yeah, in the right where you were in the capital, it was right above the ARPA funding.
Well, that's actually, this is the 35,000. You'll see my Excel line 67 or 1B.
Yeah.
Unplanned, that's the 35,000.
Okay.
Major repairs greater than 5K funded by the capital reserve.
Okay.
And then if you go down to 1B, unplanned, systems getting older, pump station generators, any repairs that we are not necessarily planning for and scheduling.
Okay.
So that's what there, it's an odd thing. I agree to have capital in two different places, but this was the way the accountant had set it up for us. So
Okay.
so that first one's under infrastructure, whereas the other one is under capital. All right, so that's revenues. I'm gonna go over any questions or keep moving. John?
I don't have any questions.
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'll keep moving. All right, payroll. Based on the numbers provided basically from the accountant's office, we did do a little moving around just because we're gonna have a little upheaval to the department in this coming spring that we can't say we have definitive numbers for. So this is our best guess at this point. We also have the same COLA account at the bottom, that line 54 is, we are in the midst of a salary study, and it is with great hope that we have some sort of cost of living increase in payroll. So there was a 3.5% increase to COLA, and also in steps that we're just not certain of because the grids are changing. And it's an estimate to the best of our ability.
Would you say 3.5%?
Yes.
Gee, is that what inflation is?
No. Hold on, I'm gonna move. You guys wanna have a chat about something? I've got the cleaning ladies are here, so it doesn't get loud, I'm going to shift myself to another room. All right, I'll be back. Nobody carried on while I was gone?
No,
Not
Barbara, you're in
singing to us.
control.
All right. Okay, so that is, let me shrink this again because I can't hardly see. So that is payroll. Yeah, yeah, 3.5%. I mean, you can reduce that. We're just trying to predict what's gonna go on. Bill or Paula, if you have anything to say on that, feel free, but that's, again, it's an estimate so that we're not caught short.
I mean, if it's gonna be a true cost of living increase, I think that's conservative, but I don't know what the outcome's gonna be.
Right, it's gonna be very conservative. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be the actual rate of inflation.
Hmm.
This is based on history
Right.
with a little hope in there. All right, any questions on payroll?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. I'll keep moving until someone tells me no. All right, and I might defer some of these questions to our DPW director because he also was a big part of this section called purchase of service, which is all the services basically and infrastructure accounts and expenses that we have. So let me just switch my page. Infrastructure. And just so you also are aware, I had over on the right-hand side on this column called increase, decrease FY24 over FY23. Don't look at the sum at the bottom because I added up all the subcategories so it was easier to see what the increase was over last year. I did put a strike through on it that I didn't have on the one I had sent out, but just so you know that that's doubling the increase down below, but it just to show you that that is what we increased year to year.
Okay.
All right. So pump stations, oops, yeah, pump stations. We went with 20,000 and oops, I've lost my prior, hold on. We had it at 10,000. Bill is, very keen on getting up and running with all the maintenance plan requirements and necessities. So he's adding in there what we can assume should be spent. So having it at 10,000 was
Okay.
unrealistic, I guess. Here's the 30. Oops, go ahead.
So on that, Bill, can you talk about some of the repairs? Because I've reviewed the maintenance plan that Wright Pierce did in 2020. And I'm curious what that 20,000 pump station general repairs includes, because based on the report, there were numerous things that were outlined that should have been addressed. And I don't know whether an additional inspections occurred or what's happened since 2020. But I'm curious what you're seeing as needs in that 20,000.
Okay, so my thought is that the system's getting older. It's coming to the end of its useful life. We know there's no issues with the generators. We've been upgrading the SCADA systems. And my thought is we're going to continue on that path, and I don't think $10,000 isn't going to get you too far. Then looking back at the history, in 2020, we actually spent $47,000, and it went down the years after. But the potential is there to have to spend a lot of money. So that was my thought of bumping it up to 20,000.
So one of the questions I have, and this could have already been addressed, and I just don't know, but one of the things that was noted throughout the 2020 report is the lack of compliance from a safety perspective. And I'm just wondering if those issues have been addressed, because my concern is the potential liability. So Wright Pierce identified, that there were a number of open terminals, lack of appropriate shield from and separation barriers, the risk of electrocution. And that was on a whole bunch of pump stations. And I'm just wondering if that's already been fixed or if that's something we need to target or.
Right, I can't say for certain, but my best guess is it hasn't been touched, so then there's another area we should be addressing.
Yeah, my concern is we have a report that's now public information that talks about non-compliance and the risk of electrocution. I think we need to address it.
Agreed.
I do think Al Packard had input on a response to that, and may have addressed some of the issues. So just so you know,
Yeah.
it
and as
hasn't
we
been a
get-
working document so that it's not being updated with repairs. So we
And
can
that kind of leads me to my next question is if there's money in the budget for, they talked about in the report about a data collection system, a maintenance log, you know, some type of tracking to track these kind of repairs and necessary upgrades. And I'm just wondering if there's money in the budget for that.
for the actual tracking system.
Right, and for the, you know, they talk about data collection logs and a tracking system, and I don't know, they talk about, you know, industry. It's available in the industry. Honestly, I don't know what they're talking about, but from reading the report, they talk about the importance of a maintenance log and tracking this kind of stuff. And it makes sense to me, so I'm just wondering if we've investigated potential costs for that, or if that's included, or if you guys ever talked about it.
Right now, we've got them all in Excel spreadsheets. That's that pump station activity
yeah.
report. So I don't think there's any formal tracking database that has been done. We did have the manhole listing is another whole, you know, spreadsheet or database, but we track it through that way.
Yeah,
But there's no formal.
right, because they talked about an inspection program for manholes, pump stations, wet wells, and so I'm just wondering if we're going to adopt that, and if so, I mean, there's going to be a cost associated with that, or is that something CTE does for us?
Well, Barbara, you mentioned the Excel spreadsheets that, I mean, we used to get those almost every meeting of conservation of the sewer commission.
From the pump stations.
Right.
Yeah, that's what Al has not had luck with. He was hoping to get us those. That's what he was talking about when he was here at the last meeting.
Okay. But
They weren't, that was mostly flows, if you recall. I think there was
right.
at some time more language versus numbers.
Right. You know, I'm sure Al can keep track of all this stuff in his head, but probably do need to look into formalizing it a little more. And I don't know if it would be through CTE or something that we have to do. I mean, it would make sense. Maybe we need to look at it as part of what CTE does. And I think some of that cost might end up having to come being rolled into the contract we have with them.
Right.
Which
will have to be renegotiated for this coming fiscal year. So
right. So maybe something we should consider including. And as far as the safety goes, I'm glad you brought that up, Paul. I don't recall Al saying anything about that or expressing any concern when he did his presentation on maintenance. Or
I
did
don't think Al is concerned because he knows the system.
he
and
knows the system.
The potential safety concerns, so I don't think he's worried about it. But you know, God forbid something happened to Al and we had a new contractor in there, then
Right.
I think we could potentially have a problem. It talks about, and honestly, it's not a term that I'm familiar with, but it talks about intrinsic safety devices and the lack of gaskets and open terminals. And the potential risk for electrocution. And there's a lot of stations. Some of them meet the standard, but Dana Street, Francis Ave, Leominster Road, Mass Ave 1, Twin City, and West Street do not. So I think that's something we gotta look at.
Yeah, Bill, is that something you can talk to Al about?
Absolutely, and I think, I forget who said it, but, yeah, Al is familiar with it. He's an electrician. He knows where he can stick his hands and where he can't. The safety, devices would be more for the layperson who goes into one of these, pump stations, and goes near the equipment. That's where you'd want the safety in place. If another contractor comes in, they're probably gonna be familiar with it also. But definitely the safety devices should be there.
Yeah, and it talks about not meeting the standard, and that's my concern is, I'm not familiar with it. I'm not an electrician. But I read this afternoon, and those are a couple of the things that jumped out to me.
All right, well, Bill, could you take a look at that? And I don't know, are you meeting with Al tomorrow?
Yeah, he usually comes in, so if he
Okay.
does, I will definitely bring.
And maybe you could look into seeing if we do need to increase the budget a little more for that.
We did increase down below, you will see under outsourcing. We are entering a new pump station, and I just realized I didn't put year 1 of 3. We're about to start into our year 1 of 3. We've got to renegotiate, go out for bid for O&M contract. And we did bump it up, just in speaking with Bill, just not knowing necessarily who we might have or would respond to the bid. So there is monies under outsourcing, and
Right.
as you said,
Right.
it might be part of the O&M contract.
Right.
Barb, it says year 3 of 3. Is
I
this?
know, no, that's an error, just. left
Okay,
over.
it should be 1 of 3.
Yes,
Okay.
All right, and any additional costs related to those items could be possibly incorporated into the contract, but again, Bill, if you could just take a look at that,
I will do that.
thank you. Okay. Barbara,
do you
want-
want, John, do you want me to just, for now, just insert a line in here somewhere for safety? In this infrastructure area? Or do
Yeah,
you want to leave it under outsourcing?
I think I would rather leave it under outsourcing,
Okay, all right.
but that's just my opinion. I mean, Mike, Brett,
I'm in the assumption, whatever has to be corrected would be fall into outsourcing.
okay.
Well, wouldn't it be part of the infrastructure because it's within the pump station? I mean, we'd be buying parts and having repairs done, so the work would be outsourced, but the end result becomes part of the infrastructure.
Become infrastructure. Yeah, I think technically we're upgrading pump stations is what we're doing.
So
Well, again,
Right.
go ahead.
I would think it would go under the 1A, the pump station general repairs, personally.
That's a good point. I still would like to have Bill
Yeah.
take a look at it and maybe talk to Al about it tomorrow.
I could see the possibility at some point of putting it on its own line. Because if Al's overwhelmed with the workload now, he seems to be handling it, but sometimes outsourcing is certainly necessary. Just a thought. Maybe call it outsourcing for infrastructure or possible outsourcing.
I think we could probably revisit it after Bill talks to Al.
Yeah, get an idea, just what we're talking.
That's a good idea.
I mean, Al's in and out of there all the time, so he probably just overlooks it. He's so used to
Mhm.
doing it his way.
Oh, John, we lost John. Here he comes. We lost you? Oh, where is he?
He's back.
I don't see him.
There we go. You're muted. You're still muted.
There,
There we go.
okay.
Welcome
Sorry.
back.
So what did you guys decide while I was gone?
We're all done. We were just getting ready.
All right, I know Brett brought up adding an extra line item in. Mike, your thoughts on that?
Well, we talked about, let's wait. That's kind of when you were gone. Let's wait until Bill talks with Al and kind of
Okay.
find out exactly what we're dealing with here. That's all.
Okay,
Yeah, then we can decide where to.
Correct.
okay.
All right,
Want to keep going, Barb?
continuing on. All righty. So again, the 30, I think we're down to the 35,000 for the unplanned, funded by stabilization. We increased it to 35, system getting older, pump station generators. So there, we did kind of. Next line is sewer lines for 15, where we've got to increase our budget for that because the jetting that is required by the maintenance plan is quite expensive, and we're trying to do 1/8 of the town each year. So that's one's been increased to 15,000. Manhole repairs, again, 10,000 just in the general. Somebody calls and says the manholes are driving me crazy, or there's a loose manhole. That's just 10,000 for that fund. It's been, that or less every year, so that's what we put in. Sewer stub installation, we do have someone that can come out with a camera and help us when we are unable to locate a stub for a sewer connection. So we just level funded that amount. Police details, police are called out every time there's road activity. Jetting, any, stub installation, so flow meters actually. So that's level funded also. Meter pits and flow meters, that is the cost of the equipment lease, because now we do lease the equipment from Flow Assessment. I am waiting on a response from them, so that's level funded as well for now. Meter reading, I have moved down to outsourcing. That was there originally. It was for irrigation meters when we thought we were going to have to warehouse some. Then it was, what are we going to do about irrigation? And then with the Northern Data providing the software for the file import, it's been moved under outsourcing, so that is at 0. And then office and DPW infrastructure, small supply amounts, basically, if the office needs something that is considered an asset, and similarly a pump station that needs, something, brooms, supplies, non-perishable supplies, just goes under there. It's a small.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I need to step away for a couple of minutes. Please continue without me. There's something I have to take care of. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I apologize, everyone.
Well, I guess you can keep going along down the list, Barbara, as long as we don't make any decisions.
Okay, all right. I just have left at 10,000. It's been at 10,000. Multiple years, that's always been the target, was to put at least 10,000 into I remediation. We, like I said, we didn't accomplish it last year, but we encumbered the cost. I have 0. I need to update that. I've got to figure out what my actuals were. I think it's been, because everything has been encumbered and gone to the prior year, I need to look at that. So as far as past expenses, let me study that and see what actuals are actually. But again, we want to, I mean, the plan is on the manholes and any other work that we're thinking of doing for I&I investigations. We want to keep some money in that fund. All right.
Okay.
Outsourcing, again, we have upped the amount. It was 85,000 for this year for the O&M contract for the pump stations. We did bump it up to 120 because it is an unknown when we go out to bid if CTE will apply again or who we might get. So that was between Bill and I an estimate that we just wanted to be safe with, because that is probably our biggest ticket besides Leominster, I guess, for us to try to estimate. And given year one, we just don't know. Generator coverage, again, bumped just a little bit. This is the contract that Al has contracted for many years with this Weld Power, who is his choice in generator repairs. They provided a maintenance contract. So it was 68.25 last year. So we've left it at 7,000 for this year, waiting on an amount. Admin services, this is a conversation item. I'd feel better if John or Paula or Bill, someone else speak. This would be because I am leaving and I'm taking with me some history of things. And they wanted to have something in here for being able to call me and not feel guilty. And if Paula needs to take vacation and give office coverage, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so my thought was, whether it's me or someone else in the position, Barb is taking not just a little bit of knowledge, all of the knowledge, and all of the history. Certainly I've learned a lot from Barb in the time that I've been here, but there's a lot more to learn. And I think in some circumstances, for example, there hasn't been a betterment, in the time that I've been there. It's not a process I'm familiar with, certainly plan to go over that, but there are going to be times where we need to have Barb come in and assist staff, whether it be me or someone else. So I felt that it was important to put funding available for consulting services from Barb.
Thank you. That was to the cleaning lady, but thank you, Paula.
Yeah, I understand this. I don't have a problem with it. Probably shouldn't talk too much about it till Brett comes back.
Okay.
Because it is a totally different, it's new.
It is. Okay.
So if you want to continue on, and maybe
Sure.
we can come back to that, and hopefully Brett won't be gone too much longer.
I'm back.
Oh, you're back.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
Brett.
Yeah, I apologize.
No,
My
not a
wife
problem.
is incapacitated at the moment, major surgery. And
Oh,
she just needed a minute. So I'm good.
good.
Okay, Brett, we were just talking about, there's a new line item called administrative consulting services.
Mhm.
It's $12,000, and what that is, Barbara's retiring, and with her is going an incredible amount of knowledge,
Mhm.
and whoever takes her place He's not going to have experienced a lot of things that Barbara is going to be able to perhaps help out with. So that's what that line represents. I mean, it's a brand new line. You know, it's a fair amount of money. So you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I could see definitely the potential need for that. I'd hate to not include it and suddenly find ourselves wishing we did.
Right, right. I mean, that's kind of my feeling. I would rather have it in there, and if we don't use it, great. But I think we would need to have it in there.
That's the
Mike?
way I'm leaning.
Mike, any thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree. I mean, we can't expect Bob just to show up at will and help us with dilemmas and everything else without some sort of compensation. So,
Right.
yeah, totally agree.
Okay.
All right, we'll keep, and it can be adjusted. That was just a shot in the dark of 200 hours, so FYI. Bill print, we had been carrying that because we had been thinking we were going to possibly outsource the bill stuff and mail. We have a lot of turmoil this year, and Paula's working hard to streamline. Jane, the process stays the same, unfortunately, Jane, but we're still stuffing and mailing at this point. As I told Paula, Northern Data had offered or said that they do offer that service, but it's been multiple years since I have gotten the price for it. I just didn't feel like we were looking to do it right away, so that was one thing I took off.
So I do want to just add that I don't think it's anything we need to do right away, but it is something. I was looking at a lot of the Munis options because I'm looking to take advantage of some of the services that Munis offers, and with the upgrade, that is bill and stuff is a service that Munis themselves provide. But I don't think it's anything we need to talk about for this year. It may be something we want to explore, in future years.
Yep. Also, with Munis, they also offer emailing. So eventually,
I saw that. I was really interested to that because we do get a lot of requests from people that can you just email it to me? And that would save us a lot of money from a postage perspective and a time perspective if we could just do an email billing. So that's definitely something when the new Munis comes online that I think we need to explore.
and I don't know if I have really filled the guys in on Munis. We've been using a very old called Classic program that Munis has decided they no longer will support. So this year, they've started downloading it to our system here, well, at Town Hall, the test system, and supposedly for about 6 months we will be running parallel. We haven't seen it yet. And the intent was to go for July 1st, but all of us screamed bloody murder that that's like the worst time. It's the end of the fiscal year, beginning of a new one. Everything it's a lot for right then, and it would be a horrible time. Plus we are also losing our town accountant to retirement. So multiple reasons we're trying to put it off, but eventually we will be on the cloud with our Munis program, and that's our billing system. Paula did some training with it. It's pretty slick if it works, but we've also seen, I have my contact in Fitchburg who experienced the upgrade is still suffering the war wounds. So it will be a while that we will see the benefit of the program, I think. So just so you know, I don't know if I've brought that up before, but that is going on. And it may cause Paula a lot of labor time when that does go through, because it's going, any computer upgrade is always never as simple as they need to promote. All right. Meter reading licensing is in there. That's the Northern Data contract. It's not a whole lot. Landscaping, we left, just that's pump station grounds. That's every once in a while, I mean, for the most part, Al is very good and does what he needs to do as far as shoveling or raking. Sometimes they just need a little help removing leaves because they all get caught up in the fencing. So we left a small amount in there. The DPW guys are also very good about helping on that. And then stub location, stub installation. Why do I have a 1E? Outsourcing. Oh, so sewer stub installation. I apologize. I described it wrong under 1E, under infrastructure. That is, if we make the error, we've been charging someone a betterment, and we find out that a stub was not ever installed, that is on us to install. So that 1E is for the eventuality of having to pay someone to put in a sewer stub. This one down under showing as 3G under outsourcing is that person that will come out with a camera and help us locate a stub when we are unable to using as-built or ties. Legal counsel is just an even amount. I did come across the thought, our IMA with Leominster is expiring next year, the end of June. So there may be extra work. I'm not sure it's going to be legal. Last time that they did it, we had Carl, Bob Ebersol working on it when it was the renegotiation with Fitchburg. So just a thought, I'm not sure we want to for sure have legal get involved with the IMA, but it's just something that I want you all to possibly think about, because it's going to be a big project for a good half of next year.
Yeah, well, effectively, when Bob was involved with it, legal was involved,
Right, right,
but he's a lawyer, for those who don't know, but
right.
So is it just the Leominster IMA?
Yes, Fitchburg's been renegotiated.
Okay.
So I don't know, we've left it as 5,000. And if you think, we will want town council to advise, we might want to increase that some. Legal or engineering services, we did increase that up to 30,000 this year because of the 40B questions that we have and pump station upgrades that we'd like to possibly get going over this FY24. So it had it increased up to the 30,000. Oops, 30,000. Sorry, I'm splitting around.
Is it 30 or 35?
35,000.
Yeah.
No, 30,000 for general consulting services. The other 5,000 is the flow meter
Oh, gotcha.
data and calibration.
Yeah, so the total is 35,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that's the end of purchase of services. Questions?
Any questions other than those already brought up?
Good.
I guess we're all set, Barb.
All right, moving
We're all
down
set.
to utilities. Utilities are really projections. There's nothing, no big surprises, no anticipated expenses more than we've known for historical purposes. So all of the the amounts have been increased based on projections. 2,300 for postage, electricity at 35,000, water at 5,000, telephone 4,000, and diesel fuel at 400. Okay. Under other, we've got advertising is just usually posting in the ledger for this or that, similar like we're going to post our public hearing. That goes under advertising. That's the kind of advertising we do. It's just posting. Office supplies and field supplies, 800 and 300 again, are just basic papers, toners, envelopes, sticky notes, that kind of thing. Field supplies for Al or whomever is like pest, ant traps, hornet spray, that kind of thing. Professional meetings is just newspaper subscriptions, but if we ever have plans for attendance at a conference or seminar, we've put it in here. Right now, I just have the Ledger's subscription in there. I don't think there's anything else that's been running on that one that I know of. Yeah, 55. It's all just been Ledger for several years now. We used to supply the MMA attendance, or split it, I think. Well, we split it because there was somebody who was on 2 commissions. But anyway, we haven't had that as an expense for a while, so it's just the subscription. All right, capital plan 5A, we've got at 96,000, and that is in Bill's estimation. This number was arrived at because it is what we were trying to accomplish with part of the ARPA presentations. But for this 1 year, Bill was just assuming 56,000 for pump station upgrades and 40,000 for manhole maintenance. So that's the 96,000 unplanned capital expenditures.
Can you just say those 2 numbers again?
56,000 pump station upgrades. It's in the comments.
Oh,
And 40,000 for the manhole maintenance. And then you'll see the purple print again, the ARPA funds, if we are able to receive ARPA monies. This is the line item where we would track the expense of them. And those are the 3 proposals we've put forward. Again, when I talk with the town manager, we'll see if they're okay with us leaving them in there. I don't think we'll put one in without the other. So it's just an offset.
Right.
If we can't have it, they'll disappear.
So-
I just have a question.
Mhm.
Bill, the 40,000 for manholes, just approximately how many manholes do you think that would cover?
That's a good question. So that was, my thought is, patching inside the manholes for more of a I&I type repair.
Right.
I'm not sure how many we can get.
so,
Well,
Must depend on their condition.
Yeah,
and that's one of my questions, is in that 2020 report, it talks about doing manhole inspections, and it notes that there's not enough staff, from the DPW or the sewer commission to do them, and that those need to be outsourced. So when we do the RFP for the contract, the year 1 of 3, are we going to include that as a component of the contract? Because that would give us a better idea of how many manholes need to be repaired.
for the operation
So,
contract, the CTE contract.
yeah. So it talks about, in the 2020 report that Wright Pierce did, it talks about, the need to do manhole inspections on a periodic basis. And that there isn't sufficient staff to do that, so that would have to be outsourced. And I'm just wondering if that's a component we could include, or is that a different contract, or?
I think we're better off to use a consultant like
Okay,
Wright Pierce to do it.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure that CTE would have the expertise for that.
Okay.
And Barb, how long ago did we have that manhole inspection done by Wright Pierce? I mean, they inspected every single manhole in town, right?
Yeah,
What, 4 or 5 years ago?
yeah. I was thinking it might be 2016. But
2019.
then
19, yeah, they did it again for the maintenance plan, I think. There was an original one and then it was done again
Okay,
in the research for the maintenance plan.
So I didn't see that, because, and it's not in the tables or anything, so if we can, I'd be curious about that.
It was a pretty thorough plan. They inspected every manhole, so. And I know we addressed some of the major ones, but
right, right.
Yeah, they definitely all were not repaired.
yeah, but it is something we have to stay on top of too, so.
Well, let's.
I
let's
and
hope
I
we
is coming
get-
from somewhere.
Right. Let's hope we get some of that ARPA money.
That would be nice.
And I don't,
Unless it gets swiped to other issues going on. You never know.
I don't think it can be used for property assessments, but
Question for Bill.
sure.
Inside these manholes, are those brick making the adjustments between the manhole hardware and the top of the, the concrete manhole itself?
Yeah, typically it's brick, yes.
So water, well, that's up above the water levels. Because water can do strange things through brick. They also deteriorate quickly with road salt, which is the biggest reason you find, the sinking of the road.
Yeah, so it was in 2014 that they did it. There's 392 manholes and they were inspected in 2014. The inspection included extensive documentation of manhole condition and defects, pipe conditions, and recommended corrective actions.
Thank you,
Wow.
Paula.
I never would have guessed it was that long ago.
Time flies when you're having fun.
All right,
Yeah, I mean, if it was that long ago, yeah, we really need to take a look at that.
We have to, yeah, we can't just take it for granted.
Right.
Well, that's based on the 2020 report that Wright Pierce gave us. That's the information in that report.
You're talking about the maintenance report now.
Yes, yeah, it's in the manhole section.
Yeah.
It talks about baseline inspections of manholes, and that's what it notes.
All right. I mean, I think we're gonna have to have some further discussion about that, but Barbara, do you want to keep going with the line items?
sure. The next one, so again, the ARPA funds go in and out. Hopefully we get them, especially after the discussion. Capital costs with Lemonster, the debt service is increasing up to just a bit under, well, it's 55,038 for this fiscal, well, FY24. And that's an increase over FY23, which was 40. And that's because there was additional debt coming due in Lemonster. They provided the debt schedules out. So that is what we expect for FY24. And then the Fitchburg of 2962.40 is again for their debt schedule. And right now it is a wash with what we have in capacity, reserve capacity stabilization for it. That's why it's in that orange color. Lemonster usage, we're projecting out for 520,000. We're running pretty well this year, but it was a very, very dry summer that I'm not sure we can always count on. We did budget 520 last year, and so we're budgeting the same. Even though the expenses are lower, we just don't want to count on the same drought conditions.
Right.
So Fitchburg, we are also basically level funding. Our estimate is close. I think it's going to be about the same. I have left it at the same.
for 220. Those are probably our biggest ticket items. And that how I've, the calculations are in that orange comment section. Leominster connections, we do pay for every connection, and depending on the size of the home or type, but we're just doing 5 residential single families. And same for Fitchburg, 1 residential is the 3750 and the 2000. Recording fees, just in case, we had one this past year with it was a conservation agreement. We needed to
The
have
certificate
recorded.
of compliance.
Yeah.
Certificate of compliance.
So that's for any recording expenses. We just keep it as a line item. And then mileage for either Paul or I, just running to town hall or to the registry of deeds, or to Passios to mail bills. So that's all under other expenses. Indirects are basically provided to us from the town accountant. And these cover, and I think I did provide what Karen has provided to us, calculation and our estimates. So they're very much estimated, again, because there are a lot of unknowns this coming year with health insurance, with fringe benefits on new employees. So we take what Karen has provided and payroll and try to figure out a little bit with some history of what the estimate would be. So those figures we can't play with. I've played with them a little based on, again, the fact that there's salary studies and change of employees, but for the most part, it's a small amount compared to what the accountant provides us. And that is didn't ever give you a total. We usually have a total. So it's an 87,000 transfer that will happen July 1st, just to cover all the town's expenses. It also covers Bill's 15% of his time. Thank you very much, Bill. So that's it for all of our line expenses. And it comes down, well, and so, anybody want to talk about any of those necessarily before I go to the next section?
Well, I guess I
Pretty
would
straightforward.
say in general, I'm not seeing anything that I would want to eliminate or reduce at this point in time. I'm actually concerned about a couple things might need a little more money. Not sure where it would come from, but particularly related to the pump stations and the manholes. But anyway, go ahead, Bart, unless anyone else has a question.
Okay. And then just, these are the town meeting transfers we've always discussed. We've historically done 3% of our revenue number to transfer over to capital reserve. Those are, capital reserve stabilization fund is for those emergencies of substantial nature. We lose a pump station, we lose major infrastructure. And this was just every year we had been attempting to put 3% of revenues. So that's just a formula. This 57,000. OPEB funding, that started FY19, we started to put money towards it. We have historically put 656. It was a number that was derived from, we had taken 10% of what the town's contribution was and had just stuck with it. Oops, oh my goodness. Hello, is everybody still there?
Yeah, we still see you.
What did I just do? I touched something. Where's my screen? Yellow.
We still see it, Barb.
Oh, good. I can't see anything. Whoa. So I've just put it up to 1,000. I've just sent an email off to the accountant's office, just try to just get the question going again.
on what we should be doing with this OPEB. We've always donated or, transferred to it as a placeholder until we were given more information, and just never have. So I've just plunked in 1,000. So I don't know if what everyone wants to do, if we want to leave it there, if we want to maybe revisit it if I get some more information from the accountant's office. This, just for your benefit, it's post-employment benefits. Basically, it's so that a town is funding retirees and that had been unfunded. So it was required by the state to the town. And I think we just started doing it in FY19. So that's what OPEB is all about.
And just the $1,000 is what the town is sort of expecting, or
No, that was just a shot in the dark. We had just carried that 656 for, I haven't heard back on what we should be putting in.
okay,
It seems to be a very elusive number. Not elusive, but not something you can quickly put your hands on.
okay.
And I've asked every year, I think. We've just carried it along so that we keep it as a placeholder.
I would just say leave it as is for now.
Leave it at 1,000 or 656, doesn't matter.
I'm sorry. Neither one of them seems realistic. That I would say put 1,000, leave it at 1,000.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, Mike, Brett?
Yeah. I don't guessing that's not going to be enough long term.
Right,
I mean,
but I'm not ready.
one big breakdown,
I know.
you're going to need triple that.
Probably that it sounds like Barbara isn't. It isn't Barbara, it's just that the town doesn't really know what to tell us. Correct,
Mhm.
Barb?
Right.
So,
And we want to ensure, as I've discussed before, just the fact we put money in, is it directly for sewer as an enterprise fund or
right,
attract?
Let me ask you this. If we do get some of that federal money, any one of these 3 subjects that gets covered potentially, will that come right off the top of this budget, or does it not affect?
You mean the ARPA money?
Right.
I put them in as revenue and I took them out as expenses. So basically it would be a wash. If we learn we are getting it, we'll leave it in revenues and then we will spend it.
Right.
But if we don't, then
We need to be prepared for the worst.
Right, well, right, and that's why Bill had upped the capital up to 96,000, so that we can still do some of the things we wanted to do if we were going to receive some ARPA.
Right. And FY25, looking ahead, say we get a break with that by some miracle, then we're looking at unreal numbers for FY25. We're kind of back in the same spot and don't want to give our customers shell shock again. See what I mean?
yeah.
Okay, just a question.
So Barb is trying to get more information on it still. So hopefully we can find out more about what the formula is that we should be following. And I think it's important to understand that, as Barb said, that it goes to the sewer employees and not just in the general fund.
Right. And thank you.
All right, and the last one, reserve capacity. This was discussed last year, I believe, that we should transfer 20% of the balance of our stabilization. We wanted to keep supplementing reserve capacity and not just count on the the money is received from these non-privileged or non-anticipated, non-bettered accounts, that we would put in 20% of our balance. So I put in 8,000. I think I had 5,000 for balance right now is 27,000. We're assuming we're putting more in based on new connections. I had come up with 8,000 is what I forget what, here it is. Plan is to transfer 20% of current stabilization fund balance, 27,963 for the next 5 years to defray the John Fitch Highway costs. It won't take care of John Fitch Highway totally, but it will have, at least we'll put through in increments of some help to offset the debt service. We have, offset John Fitch, and also the Lemonster debt is unfunded. So right now it was just 8,000. It will come out, if these debt service bills will hit our account, and it'll come out of our retained earnings also, if we don't try to build up that fund. So one way or the other, we have to pay our debt service bills.
Right.
Anyway, so the net is total revenues is 1.9 million, and our line expenses are 2.1 basically. So our deficit with this current budget is 183,746.81. And I still need to work through, as you all got on the last page, all the betterments and debt service that the town owes are here, to be determined. Some of those I plunked in with those transfers, but I will work on betterment and debt service. Usually what we do at this meeting and at this time for town managers presentation is to give them a preliminary budget of just operating budget, what we need for expenses or yearly expectations. So at this point, that's the subtotal.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Barb.
Yep.
As I mentioned, when I look at this budget, I don't see a lot of things that we can really eliminate from it. Obviously, that leaves us with what looks like an unbalanced budget. There's only a few ways to balance that in the long run, I guess, is raise rates or use retained earnings. But I don't think we have to make those decisions tonight. That when Barbara finishes up this last page, we're going to have to, figure that out. So, obviously, we're going to, Barbara, the last page, when do you think you'll be able to have a lot of that filled in and completed?
A lot of, we would have it usually, I think when we're working on FinCom presentation, we will have a more complete picture of everything. This is just to provide Heather when she presents to the selectmen the preliminary, so she has some information on the enterprise funds also, but it would be done in March.
All right, so
I'll be working on it.
she's not looking for how we're going to balance it at this point in time. Right?
No.
Okay.
No, that comes actually more even closer to the meeting when we're
Right.
putting through that summary.
All right. So Mike, Brett, do you have any other questions about the budget?
Yeah, I'm actually all set at the moment. And obviously there's a lot to discuss in the near future.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, mine would just be a comment that we obviously have a couple of years coming up where there's a lot of unknowns. So I mean, when it's, as far as balancing the budget, I see it as, it can be a combination of, depending on what comes through. If money comes through, we might not even need it. If money doesn't come through, it's obviously gonna be, you know, I'm thinking a little bit of stabilization and possibly a little bit of a rate increase. I mean, it's what it is, it is. There's nothing we, you know, there's.
Right.
We're not being foolish with any of this, I don't think, so.
Okay, and obviously we'll be talking about the budget probably a little bit about the budget at every meeting between now and several meetings out. So any other questions on the budget for tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one comment.
Sure.
I looked through that report again from Wright Pierce and found that the manhole inspection results, the rating, and I don't know how many of these have been addressed. There were 5 manholes that were significant improvements recommended, and then 42 with moderate. So I don't know how many of those we've tackled.
Right.
This is from 2020 or from before?
That's the 2020 report.
Yeah,
So I'm assuming it's based on the 2014 inspection that they did, because they hadn't done an additional one for the 2020 report. So,
and I do believe they had been working on those, honestly.
okay.
Yeah.
So that
And
would
I-
be good to
Go
follow up.
ahead.
Just saying that would be good to follow up on to find out where we are and
Right, and I think that that original manhole inspection that had the 300 and whatever is probably a good way to track all the work that's been done on the manholes. I mean, it's just an Excel spreadsheet, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And I don't. Anytime work is done on one of those manholes, it might be nice to just put a few notes on the spreadsheet. Because I'm pretty sure the manholes that needed immediate work, I hope they were worked on. But... Okay.
Yeah, I kind of remember something being put aside for that, for at least the major ones, yeah, without a doubt, yeah.
Right,
That's what I recall.
okay. Any other questions? None? Okay. I guess we're done with the budget discussion for tonight. So does anyone have any public comment? Or has anyone from the public joined us while we've been talking?
No,
No? All right, so any public comment from the commissioners or the staff?
Good.
Seeing none, okay. Does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Yep.
For me. Go ahead, Brett.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote. Brett,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
See you on Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
thank you.
everyone wear red.
Yeah, we're red. That's gonna be the outfit of the night.
Thanks, Barbara.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank you,
Lunenburg.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.